Hello, masamkele sibhotise kuninonke kwindawo ngendawo nibukeleni kuzo. The name of the show is Yilungelo Lakho. It's your right. We welcome you. Sisasa ngqo apha ku SABC 1 in our Auckland Park studios in Johannesburg. My name is Siphiwo Nzawundi. Ukhona ukubanani ke nizofumana ithuba lobantu abathi nxaxheba kwingxoxo yethu namhlanje by calling us on our studio line 011 714 6918 or 6919. You can also send us your emails to consume@sabc.co.za or rather find us on our social media platforms by sending us your views to @Yilungelo Lakho and #Yilungelo Lakho. Now, parking tariffs are a feature of every major city in the world. In addition to the high cost of owning the vehicle, motorists are forced to fork out more than they can actually. Well, it's whether you are just a few minutes to the airport or at the airport, at the shopping center or even at the hospital, motorists seem to have no choice but to pay. But it is in the city of Johannesburg where motorists seem to have been driven to the edge. Let's quickly have a look at this insert and it will give you an idea.
How much is your parking?
How long will you park for?
If I stay for about 3 hours?
28.50.
28.50. Meaning how much per hour? Iyadura ne?
9.50 kupaka lapha esitaladini selidolobha. Hayi akuduli kumba eqolo. Kepha lo sekukwatise kakhulu bashayeli. Ngilaba labakoleka le mali. Bashayeli bathi seloku kwafika laba bemamitha abo imali ekupaka yavele yenyuka kakhulu.
Thina kithi njengabantu bamatekisi yona icishe ithi ayibize ngoba u4 rand nemali kuyali 475 iyabiza ke thina kithi bamatekisi uma ngabe injalo.
Iningi lemali ungone at least babenza u2 rand ngehour at least nabasikhala 9 rand ngehour is too much.
I'm the owner of 25 Arm Training just around the corner. So every day I have to come and pay 5 rand. Sometimes you'll find that I'm coming in the morning until 4:30. I'm forced to pay 60 rand.
Yazi mina ngicabanga ukuthini mabathi bathi 5 minutes, let it be 5 minutes exactly. Ingashashi mathi 30 minutes, it's 475. If it's 5 minutes, it charge according to 5 minutes, according to the time that or spend ilo parking yabo.
Noma bashayeli bakhononda kepha sengathi kuhlupha nje indlebe levako. Le ndlela lensha yekupaka lesebenzisa emamitha yeda nenkampani lecashwe yiCity of Johannesburg, iAce Parking. Kuthiwa ke kule mali egolekwako ingcenye lenkulu yayo iya kule nkampani. Bayakhala ke bashayeli bathi babanjwa inkunzi emini kalapha. Bathuma ngabe nje iCity of Johannesburg ingadibambela yona ngekwayo lo msebenzi wekupaka le mali ngehla. Fidel Sabutore uthi sewafa kubhadala. Unesitolo khona lapha edolobheni eJozi. Uthi uhlala lapha esitolo cishe ama-hour langu-12 ongemala. Lokusho kwekuthi ngelilanga ubhadala ngetulu kwa100 rand.
This is a working place. We came here coming to work. So if I came here and I spent 12 hours parked on the street in front of my shop and they still pay the very same fee like just any other one coming from Kempton Park or Midrand or Pretoria that has to pay, and that one may come once in a while. No, that's really, it's a very, very, very unfair way of just bringing in cost to us.
Njengalabanye bosomabhizinisi kulendzawo uthi le mali ekupaka inemthelela longemuhle ebhizinisini lakhe.
My customers, when they are about to come and try to get whatever they need from my store, they will always have to think twice because they know they don't just come and get what they need, but they also have to come and they park where they have to come and they still pay a fee for just park on the street. They may even come and park for less than 5 minutes. They just come pick up and go. It makes our customers also being unhappy whenever they think of coming to town.
Fidel uthi uma ubhadalele mali ekupaka ungacabanga ukuthi nemoto yakho iphephile.
When you park on the street, you park on at your own risk. You park at your own risk. They don't guarantee anything. We've experienced a couple of incidents where people have to park on the street. But the next time they go to their car, they find that their cars are broken.
Bashayeli bathi lokubuhlungu ngalolu hlobo lolusha lokupaka kwekuthi kude lo weta watofuna luvo lwabo. Kwavele nje kwathiwa sekuyabhadalwa. Kanti bese kuphela isikhathi lesidze bapaka mahala.
We don't know the main purpose of the money that we pay to this parking, where it's being used for. We don't know either it's another of creating jobs.
Hayi ke, masicela kuxoxisana neCity of Johannesburg, asikayitfoli impendulo. Kepha i-Ace Parking yona ithi de akusiyele bekalinani lemali yekupaka. Lokhu kwentiwa yi-Johannesburg Metropolis Department. Akusibo bodwa labapaka edolobheni labakhalako. Lolu hlelo lokupaka lukhona nasendzaweni tekuhlala taseJozi. Kepha abahlali baseParkhurst bona bashaya phansi ngelinyawo bathi abayifuni le ndlela lensha yekupaka. Balwa baze baphumelela. Kulenye indzawo eParkhurst kupakwa mahala. Likhansela le-Ward 117 eJozi litsite le ndlela yekupaka bekumele isuswe ngoba yalethwa ngephandle kwekuxoxisana nebahlali. Bengasombululi tinkinga tekupaka kanti futhi beyenta indzawo yabo ingavakasheleki. Ngabe ngitiphi letinye tisombululo lebathi bashayeli tingasita kule nkinga yekupaka? Kuxoxisana nemphakathi, kwehliswa kwemali yekupaka, noma indlela yekupaka lesebenzisa likhadi. Zinhle Dlamini, Yilungelo Lakho.
All right, and now to take our discussion further on concerns on the cost of parking in Johannesburg CBD on motorists, let's welcome Minar from the Johannesburg Metro Police, that is the Metro Police or Police Department. We'll also welcome Tim Trellick, a ward councillor in Johannesburg. Gentlemen, thank you very much for joining me and welcome to the show.
Thanks for inviting us.
Now, as you can see the insert, we'll start with you, Mr. Minar. I want to know, what was the initial planning behind this process or the implementation of this parking system?
Yeah, look, the reason behind it is previously people would park in one spot all day and there would be no parking for other people. And that is the main reason for introducing a parking paid system where people would have to pay in order to park, and in that way we could be able to rotate bays. We would also be able to manage the traffic flow in that area better. So that is what is the reason for having introduced this paid parking system in Braamfontein and the CBD of Joburg.
All right. And have you met your target since the initial or since the implementation of this process, or since this operation has been on the ground?
Oh yes, targets have been met in the CBD and in Braamfontein, and we're very happy the way it's working there. People are paying, and there is a rotation of bays. That's important because now there is also parking space available for everyone else.
But is there parking slot available
Yes.
for people in Johannesburg?
Yes, you
Why
find
exactly?
people.
Because when we're looking at the insert, people seem not to see the productivity or rather this improving the parking system or the congestion rather in Johannesburg.
You see, now people will not be able just to park all day without paying. So once your time is up, after having paid your R4.50 for half an hour or R8 for an hour, and the time is up, then you have to move on. Now making a parking space available for another motorist. So therefore we've been able to get a rotation of bays, which now more people can park in the city, do their business, go to the banks, go to whichever offices they need to go, and then leave, except for the people who work in the city.
Except for the people who work on the city. Yeah. All right, let's come to you, Tim Trellick. Being one of the people, or rather you represented your ward, and you want to appeal to the Johannesburg City Council that the system was not working, or rather it was inadequate for your area. And I'm just going to read from the statement that was released by the City of Johannesburg on the 3rd of July 2014, when they were putting in place the comprehensive parking management for Parkhurst. They say this development clearly demonstrates the fact that Johannesburg is a caring city which takes conscious actions by being supportive and caring, whilst building sustainable communities and attending to the needs of its residents. Do you agree with the statement?
I think initially no.
Okay.
When it was rolled out at the end of 2011, just after I became a councillor, we had no indication of what was going on in our suburb. It was the residents and the traders in our high street in 4th Avenue, Parkhurst, who called me up and said, "Tim, what's going on? Somebody's painting numbers on the curbstones." And that was the start of the system. There was no consultation, no understanding of where it was going to go to, which suburbs it was going to go into, and we took a good week or two to actually find out what was going on. Eventually, we contacted JMPD, found out that there was a service level agreement with a company called Ace Parking that had rolled it out into the CBD and Braamfontein, and we're now starting the suburbs. And Parkhurst was first on the list, but we didn't know anything about it, and that's when Wayne and I started interacting. We actually got it stopped for several months, postponed. Then it was rolled out again in March of 2012, and it was never very popular, and it didn't really match the needs of the residents in Parkhurst. In terms of as we saw in the clip, you have to pay for the first 30 minutes. You have to pay up front. It doesn't work in the evenings when we have congestion in our restaurants, and it didn't really work at the weekends, only half day on Saturday, and after that the system was pulled. So basically the way it was rolled out and the fact that it was so inflexible in the areas it was rolled out into was the problem. And it took a lot of negotiating, a lot of talking to the city and fighting with the city and using all the different means available to us, but not in a bad way. I mean, yes, we got upset sometimes, but in a constructive way. And the result of the 30 months of campaigning to get it removed from Parkhurst was the fact that the city said, okay, if you don't want it there, we will actually move it out. And we'll move it somewhere where it's more acceptable. And as an example...
And where exactly is that in Johannesburg?
How do you mean?
When you're saying that it has to be moved to a place where it's more acceptable, which areas do you regard as acceptable?
A place where it's needed. And what I think was important was the fact that we had this, the residents and the businesses revolted against the scheme in Parkhurst. And it made the city look at, well, what are the different options you need to have when you're planning for suburbs, when you want these very important high streets in our suburbs to remain and to be vibrant. Paid parking is one of the actual things you need. There's other things like increased pedestrianisation, better lighting, just general. There's more things you need to. How do you handle freight? So what you've got to look at is where can the system in its current form be rolled out to.
And where it's not working.
And where it's not working.
All right. Yeah. Well, let's quickly take our first commercial break. After the break, we'll continue with our discussion right here in studio. And of course, just to remind you that as the discussion today unfolds, we will take your views on our lines, 011714691 or 6919. We'll be back shortly. Well, welcome back. We'll continue with our discussion right here in studio. We're talking about the expensive, or that seem not to be popular, parking system that's been implemented in Johannesburg and other major areas throughout South Africa. And joining me in studio is Mr. Minar from the Traffic Department in the City of Johannesburg. And of course, we've got Tim Tralek, who is the mayor, not the mayor rather. I seem to be promoting you earlier.
Yes, I don't mind.
He's a ward councillor in Johannesburg. Before the break, you were telling us about how you see, or rather regard the system to be unfair, not just to Johannesburg residents, but to other residents, and especially made reference to Parkhurst being the area that you are ward councillor to. So just continue to elaborate on some of the points that you put forward.
Well, just the unfairness of it was the inflexibility of the system and the fact it was imposed on the suburbs without anybody knowing about it and without really anybody having initially any input into it. I think...
Can I just intervene? You compare the system with the e-tolling system. Yeah. Some of the people actually call it the P-tolling system as opposed to the e-tolling, the P-tolling. Why would you compare it to the e-tolling system?
Well, again, if you look at it, it was kind of rolled out against the will of the people in the suburbs. I'm not sure the inner city areas, but I presume a lot of people weren't made aware of it. 75% of the money is actually given to Ace Parking. Only 25% goes back to the city. And it's in areas like Parkhurst, none of that money was coming back to the suburb to to improve the sidewalks, to improve the road surfaces like it's meant to be done in the service level agreement that the city has with them. And the fact that a lot of the money was not actually going to the city, it was actually going somewhere else.
And you say 75% was going to the entity that's
Ace Parking. Yeah.
Ace Parking.
Yeah.
Mr. Minar, why is that? Why does it seem like the city of Johannesburg, you cannot carry off this project on your own? Why did you see the need to contract a separate entity to carry it forth?
Yeah, look, you see, it would cost the city and the Metro Police Department a lot more money.
So was it better to roll out a tender?
If the city had to employ people to do the job, if the city had to buy equipment, which the marshals are using, if the city had to buy a uniform and pay salaries, as well as for the management. So it would have cost the city more. So that
but
is
then
why.
Did you take into consideration some of the complaints that are coming from residents, especially from Team, who is representing basically the large voices of people who are residents in Johannesburg?
Look, in Parkhurst, from the offset, we knew that from an operational point, it won't work in Parkhurst.
So you implemented it even though you knew it would not work? Why specifically Parkhurst?
Operationally, we were not happy. But theoretically and otherwise, there was the implementation. But so eventually, it did come to a halt in Parkhurst, which we were happy for. And now it should be rolled out into areas where there are higher volumes of traffic, which just makes sense to be able to manage parking and to control parking better, to make parking available for everybody.
Mm-hmm. But then is the system implemented across the country to other provinces, your Cape Town, your Port Elizabeth and Durban?
Yes,
or is it just Johannesburg?
A similar system has also been used in Cape Town. And may I add that in Cape Town, people pay 11 Rand an hour, whereas in Joburg, they pay 8 Rand.
And why is that?
Well, look, I think people in Joburg have an advantage, so they pay a lower fee for parking.
Okay, let's come to your team. I'm just going to quote the city of Johannesburg again. They say this parking scheme basically was so far producing results. And you just heard Minar saying that benefit the community. And I believe the general question is how, but do you agree with the statement?
No, Parkhurst, it didn't benefit the community. But
in general, in Johannesburg, do you think it's going to meet this target?
It depends on which community you're talking about. Mm-hmm. For instance, I do agree when I go to Braamfontein now, I can actually find parking, whereas I could never find parking before, but at a price. It's R9.50 an hour. It's gone up this last year. So it is expensive, but it also forces you to, do I really need to take my car in? Mm-hmm. Are there other options? I came here on a bicycle. I've got an electric bike that I use now, and it avoids a lot of this nonsense and the congestion. So I think, in a way, what needs to happen is the paid parking is meant to be part of the solution to a parking problem, and not the solution to the parking problem. And I think the city has realized that in Parkhurst now, that you need a whole host of different solutions, all of them contributing towards solving any problem that you have in your area. Can I also just say quickly that the city, the current contract that was in place with Ace Parking has run out, and I think there's a new one coming in, and the new one will be much more flexible to allow for maybe flexible pricing, allow for 15 minutes free parking for people that just want to run in and buy some milk and come back out again. And it should also allow for flexibility in times. So if you, as Braamfontein, for instance, is becoming more of a party venue, and you need parking at night. So the new system should be more flexible to allow for paid parking to be on. All right,
Mr. Minar, let's come to you. You saw the gentleman was on our insert. He says that this is negatively affecting his business, as he owns the building, he rents a building, but still he has to pay for parking. And some of his clients are complaining that the parking is too expensive in Johannesburg. Did you consider that perhaps you need to have some sort of a comparison or price ranging for people who are regulars and visitors?
Yeah, well, look, we're glad that the new tender or the new approach will have some flexibility as far as the price ranging is concerned. But however, I must say that all over the world, people pay for parking.
But then the system, as much as it's a worldwide phenomenon, as you say, but do you really think that it was necessary for Johannesburg? But it seems like we still have a parking problem or parking issue in the country.
No.
In Johannesburg specifically.
Johannesburg, we've solved the problem of no parking.
But the voices parking of the people.
No, I agree with you. Look, that we would have the odd individual or two who's not satisfied, who would want to park for free. But we can't have that. nowhere in the world. If you go to London, you'll pay hundreds of rand for parking overnight.
Okay, let's talk about the price ranging. Did you even consider that?
Yes.
That perhaps people who are regulars need to pay less than people who are visitors?
Yes, look, there are that options which will be looked at with the new parking system, and we hope that it will work better for most people, and that we will be able to have a lower fee on certain parts or certain roads as compared to the main roads.
When are we most likely to see this new system on the ground?
Look, the time frame I don't have, but there will be a new system.
Okay, and any plans to roll out this one or to cut it out on the ground, seeing that it didn't work for an area like Parkhurst?
No.
Did you consider perhaps having a consultation process? Because one of the issues is that you did not consult before implementing this.
Look, I agree that probably there was the flaws in that, in the implementation of the system at Parkhurst.
Yes.
But we're going to improve as we go along to implement it at areas where there's a higher volume of traffic. Look at it, for an example, Rosebank. There's a need for that system in Rosebank. Also, as also mentioned by the business and people who live in Rosebank. So there's a bigger possibility.
So are you going to have a consultation process with the businesses, especially people who are commercially benefiting from this? Because the system is seen to be benefiting, the company that you have contracted to carry this is the one that's benefiting more than the people who actually make the system work, who are being underpaid.
You know, the company has mentioned to us that they're not making a lot of money because they have to pay for salaries, they have to pay for the equipment that they're using. It's not for free. And they also have to pay for the uniform and all the other costs. So they're not making a lot of money.
Tim, let's come to you. Let's just talk about some of the general concerns that you've heard, besides the Parkhurst issue, which of course you claimed victory on it. But about this system of paying and the fact that you compared it with the e-toll system, just elaborate further on that.
Well, basically, people saw the system earlier. You arrive, you physically have to pay your parking up front. It's not a retrospective one. So if you think you're going to be there for an hour, you have to pay for an hour. If you think you're going to be there for 2 hours, you pay for 2 hours. But if you're only an hour, you've lost that 1 hour of parking that you paid for. So it's a little bit inflexible in that. It's also what I found in the past is there's quite a lot of opportunity for guys to pocket the money and put it in their pocket. There are a few things that have been put in place now that make it a bit more difficult, but there's still quite a lot of maneuverability for the guys working the street to actually do some scams, some small scams. And so from that side, it's not desirable. The other side is it is very expensive. And if you have to look at your different areas, perhaps downtown Joburg, it's way too expensive for the area, or for certain areas in downtown Joburg.
Which is 9 rand an hour,
I can understand a Marshalltown, which is fairly wealthy. It's actually an amazing part of the inner city of Joburg. You can get your 9.50 Rand. It's lawyers and bankers and whatnot. But in other parts, it's not so wealthy. Maybe 5 Rand, 4 Rand, 3 Rand an hour. Then it might work, and the free 30 minutes or the free 15 minutes to run in, drop something off, that will also help a lot. So I think the flexibility is what we've got to look at now and see and hold the city to the flexibility and hold
of
the city
this whole system.
Yeah, of the whole system. So,
all right. Well, 01171469118 or 6919 is the number to dial. After the break, we take your calls and read some of the messages you've sent us on Facebook. So keep those messages coming also at Yilungelo Lakho and hashtag Yilungelo Lakho. Also take your emails, by the way. Somebody asked me if you really read our emails. Yes, one of these days we'll have an episode inspired by your emails. So send those emails to consumer@sabc.co.za. After the break, we continue. Welcome back, and so we continue with our discussion right in studio about the motor or the parking fee that seems to be of concern to many motorists in Johannesburg. And we'll be taking your calls on 01171469118 or 6919. You can also send us your thoughts to consumer@sabc.co. And talking about calls, it seems like we've got a caller on the line. Hello. Hello, Michael, are you there? All right, Michael is going to seem like we've missed Michael. Just keep those calls coming. It's 01171469118 or 6919. But right now, let me just read one of your messages you've sent us on the social platform right there on Facebook. It says, Malbongo Belemanyonya says, I think it's fair, bekuya ngokwami ngesenyuswa ibe ngaphezulu gogo ukuze kwehle umthamo wemoto ezindleleni ukukhuthaza abantu ukuba basebenzise i-public transport. Sifisa Ntuli Sombisi says siyabonga uhlelo lwenu liyasiza endaweni zonke. Thank you uNkulunkulu ngibusisa. Okay, thank you. Ntokozo Ntuthuko says Msisane says incane le mali ekhokha emigaqweni ukuba ngekuya ngokwami ngeba iyenyuswa ngoba imigwaqo yaseJohannesburg inamakhamera mikhulu or mancane. And then Tsepiso Marabanyane says, actually, where does the money go? Where does the money go? Just keep those messages coming. Go and search our page on Facebook. It's at Yilungelo Lakho. And of course, on Twitter, our handle is at Yilungelo Lakho. Hashtag us at Yilungelo Lakho. Wayne Minar, the question there, I think the last question that just takes the gist of it all. Where does the money go? We know that you've contracted this company to carry off this project, but 75% being of benefit to them. Do you think that's fair?
Yeah, no, you see, I must also rectify you. On the first contribution there, the person said that he thinks the system is fair. It's not that it's failed, it's fair.
Okay, well, why did you implement it if you think it's unfair then to motorists?
No, it's not unfair. The system is fair. In Parkhurst, yes, it didn't work because there's a village set up there. You know, there's not a high volume of traffic. So therefore, from the onset.
All right, let's just hear from Diana. Diana was calling us. Hello, Diana, welcome to the show. Diana, are you there? Is Diana on the line? Okay, it seems like we've lost Diana also. You're still saying that you say the system is fair. You don't agree with people who are saying that it's unfair to them?
Yes.
And it was unfair to... I still need to know why the different areas, just because there was no paying slot or the paying system before, this was introduced in Parkhurst. But did you consider other areas as well that perhaps it could be heavy load to motorists?
Yeah, no, that's where it hasn't been introduced to other areas yet. However, we're considering the very high volume areas.
Okay, the last question says, where does this money go? Similar to the question they would ask about an e-toll system, where does the money go?
Yeah, look, money from parking fees goes to the city coffers. And then from the city coffers, it will be redistributed for...
All right. Let's just hear from Vusi. Hopefully, we'll be able to get through. Hello, Vusi. Welcome to the show.
Hello.
Hi. How are you?
I'm well, thank you.
I'm good.
I'm listening to the show, and I had an encounter this morning. I went through to the Home Affairs in Johannesburg just to pick up something at the Home Affairs. As I stopped, this gentleman came up to me to advise that I need to give him 20 rands because I would take forever at the Home Affairs. So I asked him who determines the time frame that I'm going to take inside at the Home Affairs, because he doesn't know how long I'm going to be there, you know. So he says, no, when you're going to the Home Affairs, you leave 20 rands, and then when you come back, if there is any change, we would give it to you. But I think that system for me, it's just uncomfortable. By the time you even stop, someone's like at your window as if, you know, you are a criminal or something. I didn't like it, and I do not like that system at all.
All right. Thank you so much, Busi, for your contribution. And hopefully Mr. Minar will be able to attend to your question. You heard the caller, we just call us Busi from Vosloorus. She says she's not happy, and she just had an encounter this morning that she was required to cough out 20 rands before she even went inside Home Affairs. Still, goes back to what the people on social media were saying, that this is unfair, it's uncomfortable. Did you consider?
Yeah, no, look, the system in the Joburg is necessary because we have to manage the system. We have to rotate bays so that there's parking for other people. And I don't understand share to pay 20 rand. I don't because...
Well, that's currently what's happening on the ground.
It's
right?
9 rand 50 for an hour. If there's corruption, it must be reported.
And then did you consider that? Or perhaps have you heard of similar cases where people would be duped?
It's not so much doping. It's as I said earlier, you have to actually figure out how long you're going to be. So he said 20 rand. Well, it's 9 rand 50 an hour, so that's 10 rand an hour roughly, because the guys never have change. So that 50 cents always goes into their pocket or whatever. That's what we found in Parkhurst. And but if you pay that up front, you don't get that back. There's no like, oh well, I was only an hour and a half. Here's your 4 rand 50 back. It doesn't happen.
All right. Well, let's hear from our caller who's calling us from Germiston. Hello.
Yes, sir. How are you?
I'm good, thank you. How are you?
I'm okay, thanks. Henry in Germiston.
Yes.
I would like to say, you know, this system, I don't like it at all, really.
All right.
I understand the call that saying this system is fair. It's not fair at all. It's not fair. I don't like it. And those money, I don't understand where it's going to. And we're paying much, even the tickets that we are paying there at Johannesburg City, it's too much. We find sometimes that they charge us the ticket that we even don't know. That's what I'm saying. So every time when I'm going to inner city, we've got a ticket of those picking. Me, I don't pay those things, and I don't have pay it, and I won't pay it. I don't like it at all, because we've never even been told as a citizen.
All right. Thank you so much, Zwane. We're taking, of course, your contribution to this discussion. We're going to note it down, and it's going to count towards. Let's go to Diela, who was calling us from Germiston early on. Diela, are you there? Continue. Yes. Siyakuzwa baba.
Ngifisa ukubuza ukuthi mhlawumbe leli hlelo lokuphaka abalenza khona lapha eGauteng bhuti mdala ukuthi ngabe lisemthethweni kamasipala yini, ngoba mangithi ngiyilalele la ngiyathola ukuthi ikhansela alikunakhuza aliqondi kahle, futhi nanokuthi mhlambe kuhlomula umasipala noma kuhlomula ipolice ephethe lapha eGauteng yini, ngoba ngibona sokungehle kunciphe izinto zala enakhuzeni uvakasha njengaseGauteng, nanokuthi kutholakala imoto ukuthi ayizikho safety mayiphakile. Mhlambe uyinakhuza ipolice ixhumene nomasipala ukuthi bexoxisane ngomphakathi. Ngibonge umsakazi.
Okay, siyabonga kakhulu baba. So we'll answer your question and of course take that into consideration. One of the callers, one who was calling us earlier on, of course, they're still expressing the fact that they are not satisfied with the system. They think it's unfair, and the fact that it's not benefiting them. And the general question is, and it's a general feeling actually, that people don't want to pay for something that they don't see. I mean, if they can't see the physical evidence of what's happening, then how are they supposed to trust the system, Mr. Minar?
You see, if something is for free, then people would more likely would want to accept it. But as soon as you must pay, then people are not happy with it.
Of course, people don't want to pay for something they don't see physical evidence or them benefiting from.
Yes, but it is logic that when you pay, we are able to manage the system. That is why, at the moment, there's a rotation of pay.
No. The question is, how are people benefiting from the system? If it's an e-toll system or the P-toll system, as it's called, how is it benefiting
let's
general...
not mix the parking fees with the e-toll.
But
it's totally separate.
The pattern is seen to be the same.
The city of Joburg is doing parking meters, and Sanrail is doing e-toll. So let's not mix e-toll with prepaid parking.
Although the pattern is the same?
Paid parking on the road. Paid parking on the road, the purpose of it is to rotate bays for people to be able to park.
All right. Okay,
and then it's not complicated to understand.
All right, and then another question is this a municipal decision or initiative, or rather it's a government initiative? Is it just in Johannesburg that you decide on the fees, as you said, that one is different from the Cape Town or the Durban and the Gauteng one?
Yeah, no, the municipalities would differ depending on what they decide.
Let's come to you, Tim.
Just in terms of that, yes, there's a lot of municipalities that they have a paid parking, a prepaid parking or curbside parking system, and it's right the way throughout South Africa. And a lot of them are actually administered by Ace Parking, who run the Joburg one. So these guys, they've got some experience in it. They kind of know what they're doing. The main problem I think we had in Joburg is the fact that none of the areas weren't studied properly beforehand when they were determined where they're going to roll out from. And what I would really call on the city to do is actually look, 2-3 years in now, what's happened in town? What are the problems? Like you mentioned now about people, they can't afford that kind of money, they don't understand it. What would make the system work better in a Braamfontein or a downtown Joburg? Now, we've got a good chance in my ward, although it's out of Parkhurst, it's going into Rosebank. We've got a good chance in Rosebank, in a small area, to actually do a study to say, well, in this area it'll be a bit cheaper, in this area it'll be more expensive. And if you don't like it, go park in Rosebank Mall. There's options. The problem is, in a lot of cases, in downtown Joburg, we don't have any of these other options.
All right, let's just hold it there, Tim. After the break, after the ad break, when you come back, you're going to give us some of the solutions and some of the things you'd like to propose to the city of Johannesburg, of course, as the councillor right there for a ward in Johannesburg. Well, 011 714 6918 or 6919 is the number you can call in order to participate in our discussion right in studio. After this ad break, we'll continue and we'll be taking your calls and messages. Welcome back. Well, we'll still continue with our discussion right here in studio. We're talking parking and the parking fee and the parking space in Johannesburg. And we've had people contributing and giving us exactly what they think and they're feeling by calling us on our studio line, which is 01171469918 and 6919. Let's quickly take some of your messages. Of course, Lurato Latoya Manyanya there sent us a message and she says, I think we're supplying those people with money to buy food for lunch. And then we've got Singata Porta who says, I really don't do it. Or I think don't get it maybe. Why are we supposed to pay for everything in our country? Or they must reduce it to 450 per hour. And that is at Johannesburg. And then we've got Tats Tato who says, but what happens when you have a business near the parking spot and you have to spend almost 20 hours there? Are you going to pay to the normal amount like many other people or any other person? They should rethink this with businesses at least half the price. Okay, let's quickly also take Bonisiwe who is calling us from Bonisiwe. You're calling us from Germiston, I believe. KZN. Hello, Bonisiwe. Bonisiwe. Sikhona kunjani mama?
Ngiyaphila. Kuma ngabonisa ngome Pakistan.
Yebo mama, siyakuzwa.
Ngicela ukubuza ukuthi banazo yini inhlelo laba namabhizinisi nabasebenzayo daily lapho eJohannesburg zokuthi mhlambe babe nama-tickets or coupons abazosebenzisa bathole i-discount because it's not fair for them ukuthi bakhokhe njengabantu abasebepaka ngaleso sikhathi. Nje kade ngibuka nalo bhuti lo onebhizinisi odena end up akhokhe 100 rand, whether uyithola imali or ayitholanga lo 100 rand,
you still have to accord.
At the same time in moto ayikho safe.
All right. Sebonga kakhulu Bonisiwe with your contribution right there. The general concern right there, Mr. Minar, and of course to your team, is what about businesses? You know, what about people who've got businesses? And you saw the gentleman was on the insert. He says, I've got the business and I operate here. I rent this property. So shouldn't that be inclusive, or shouldn't you come out with a program perhaps that will have a cut system that will automatically cater for such people, like going earlier to what I said, regulars to visitors?
You see, the majority of business people do have parking, either underneath the building or in the building.
But what about those who don't have?
Well, look, for those who don't have, they will have to pay per hour like everyone else is. But there are parking areas in the city where you can pay per week or per month.
But one someone just called us right now says that the issue is, and I mean, one of the Facebookers also said that people who've got businesses still have to pay like any other person. You spend 19 hours, 20 hours within the building, you come up, you've got this huge bill.
Yeah, no, look, I agree. That's why we're having with the new system a flexible approach.
All right, let's hear from Zamo, who's calling us from Bramfontein. Hello, Zamo.
Hello.
Hello, Baba.
Yeah, the problem I have is with the police representative.
Yes.
Yeah, Mr. Wayne. The problem is he's ducking the question. If you ask him, he's not answering the question. He's telling you, don't compare the system to e-toll. Again, people were not informed about this thing when it was implemented. That's number one problem.
Yes.
2, 75% is going to this parking company. Why are they not hiring guards to look after our cars when we pay? Where is the 75% going? How much are they paying to those people? Why are they not hiring people to guard the cars if they are taking so much money?
All right.
Because we feel like we're paying for nothing. Our cars are not being carried, and yet we pay such amount. For what? The roads are not being improved. Lights are not being improved. Robots are not working. But where is the money going to?
Where is the money going to? Okay, thank you so much, Mzamo. We're taking your points down, and Mr. Minar is going to answer them. Let's quickly go to Mlungisi, who's calling us from Cape Town. Mlungisi, hello. Yebo, Baba.
My friend, I'm watching the program now on the TV now. My concern is this: if you go to the town, you go to the street, which you must take all the.
Hello, Mlungisi.
Yes, my brother.
Yes.
My question is this: if you go into the street in a town, you must pay every time.
What's that?
If you go to the street in town, you must pay every time.
Why must you pay every time? Is that your question?
It's at all the streets. You go from other street to go another street. You must pay every time.
All right, thank you so much, Mlungisi. Lou right there, who's calling us from Cape Town. Earlier on, we had a caller who basically, the first question, and I think the question, what I said, that the general feeling is people do not want to pay for what they do not know, how it's benefiting them. 75% is going to this company that you've contracted to carry off this, and people feel that it's just unjust, it's unfair. And also, another question is, why must you pay all the time?
You see, costs for uniform, costs for salaries, cost for the machines. Those
are they inclusive on the 75%?
Yes.
Also, these people are paying. So if I'm a motorist in Johannesburg, I'm paying for you to buy uniform, as you say?
Yeah.
Oh.
Yeah, for the salary and also.
So are you telling us, Mr. Minar, that as motorists in Johannesburg, we are paying for your uniform through this parking system? That's how this whole thing is benefiting?
That's right. For the staff who work for the company that manages the system.
Amazing. Amazing.
Well, basically, the 75% pays for Ace Parking to run the parking system. So somebody has to pay for that, whether it's the city or Ace Parking. 75%, if that's too high, too low, I'm not sure. That maybe should be more flexible. In certain areas where there's very high volumes, you could maybe drop that. And other areas where it's more, there's less parking, less people wanting to park, well, you might have to charge a bit more. But the point is exactly what they were saying, is that 75%, very little of that, well, that goes to Ace Parking. The 25% that goes to the city was not finding its way back into Parkhurst, and that was our big gripe. The sidewalks, the roads were not being upgraded, the traffic lights, all of that, as the caller mentioned, was the problem.
And another question from Lungiso from Cape Town is, why must you pay straight to
exactly,
street?
And if you look in Parkhurst, if you want to go to get your milk at the corner shop, you've got to pay your R4.50. Then you want to go to the hardware shop next 500 meters down the road, you've got to pay another R4.50. And if you want to go to get your mail and whatnot at the post office, it's another R4.50. It should be flexible, and I've paid my money. Can I go here, until it's run out? These are kind of the issues that the city needs to really address. They've started. I'll give them their due. They've started after we fought in Parkhurst, but it needs to go a bit further than
go a bit further than that.
Yeah.
Mr. Minar, one of the Facebook messages actually said that we are paying for your lunch, and now that you're saying that we're paying for your uniform, could that be inclusive in the package also?
No. I mean, a lunch and cold drink, that's laughable. And I get a salary for paying for my lunch.
But then shouldn't the department perhaps the traffic department cater for uniforms?
Let me tell you something else. Look, Councillor Trulakia is very right in saying that we have changed our approach. We are being more flexible. The system or payment also in terms of the parking fees will be more flexible. But
shouldn't we be talking about the uniform for the people who are collecting the coins and the marshals? The people who are actually on the ground. But is that what you're talking about? Is that the uniform you're talking about, the one that we're paying for?
The people who work for Ace Parking.
But what about the payment, the money? The general view also is that the very same people who make this work or operational on the ground are being underpaid. Because 75% goes to the company that's responsible, and then the 25% or the small percentage that remains behind doesn't really go to serve the interests of their motorists.
No, look, as far as the payment of the salaries is concerned, I got nothing to do. That's the company that's managing it, the staff. They pay the staff the salary.
All
We've
right.
got nothing to do with it.
Well, let's take a pause and go for a commercial break. We'll continue with our discussion right in studio. 011714691 or 6919 is the number to dial in order to be part of the discussion. We'll be back shortly after this. Welcome back. We'll still continue with our discussion right here in studio. You're watching Yilungelo Lakho, and of course we're talking about the parking system and the fees that seem not to be popular amongst many motorists in Johannesburg. And before the break, we still had callers who were complaining and just unpacking their feelings about the system which is operational in Johannesburg and other metro areas. Let's just take some of the messages also you have sent us. I see that Nsieng Mohwedi Waserepa says it's expensive way to make money. George Vongani Wagamatunsa says, I think it's unfair to pay for parking if it's less than 2 hours. But it is fair to pay if someone will park for more than 2 hours. Okay, Njabulo Craig Biela says, I've seen nothing wrong with fees. Everything we touch tends to be sold. The problem is system of paying, rather. And then Siabulela Stofile says, I think it's a fair price because we people also must remember that the CBD's life is very expensive. All right, let's quickly take Mzinto, who's calling us from Bramfontein. Mzinto, welcome to the show.
Kunjani baba?
Sikhona baba kunjani?
sikhona siyabulaleke eBraamfontein yabona the whole of Braamfontein nje ama-customer the business to start with iyehla because of lama-meter la and azange basiconsulte thina as business people ukuthi bafethu ngelanga eliso siwenza kanje or basipha ama-discount when you got a business
all right
you charge about 70 rand 100 rand.
Yes. Okay, Sebonga kakhulu baba. Thank you so much.
Yep.
Well, that's Mzito was calling us from Braamfontein. I think the general, these things, the questions and the concerns keep on merging together. One of the questions or the issues is that you did not consult the businesses. And Mzito was just called us from Braamfontein, says that he's a businessman in Braamfontein. And this is too much for them. You don't make 150 rands or rather a day or an hour, but you still have to pay that amount because you have parked in Braamfontein.
You see, consultation did take place in 2011.
With who?
With business in Braamfontein.
With businesses in...
Yeah, 2011.
2011.
Yeah, so that was prior to the rollout. And after the rollout, obviously, then people got used to the system. And the important thing is we can rotate bays.
All right, let's hear what Mtunzi from Soweto has to say. Hello, Mtunzi, welcome to the show.
Hello, how are you, sir?
I'm well, thank you.
I'm okay, sir. You know what? I think the city is being unfair. The city is being unfair. You can go now to where the Department of Education, Market Street and Commissioner Street. The people who are working in those buildings are parking on the road, but they are not paying. They are not even getting to what you call ticket files. You go also at Fox Street where there's a Metropolis offices there. I normally go to number 75 where
yes. All right. Okay. It seems like we've just lost Mtunzi. Mtunzi, are you there? Okay, but we got the gist of exactly what Mtunzi was saying. Let me just raise some of the valid points that have been raised by the callers. Firstly, it was what happens when you don't have the money. And I believe that there is a 500 rands, is it 200 rands fine. Why is there 200 rands fine? I mean, if you see that this is so unjust and so unfair towards consumers, aren't you willing to change it?
No, we're willing to change. We're willing to adjust to have rates which is more.
But are you going to keep
flexible.
The system? Is the system
yeah,
still
the system, the parking system will keep. But having more flexible rates is the way we're looking at it. And also, remember, Joburg is the the hub of the economy of the continent. So whether you go to all over the world, whether you go to China or whether you go to Brazil or whether you have to pay for parking.
All right. Also, the unfair practices.
I just want to say that, I mean, when I moved to Parkhurst, we actually had all these points that all these callers are bringing up. And some of them are being addressed now, but others, for instance, if you work in the area, can you get pay 600 rand a month instead of the 9 rand 50 an hour that costs you a lot more than that? I think I saw people saying 1,800 a month on your
it's
Facebook
ridiculous.
Now. So in areas like Braamfontein, if JMPD or the city looks at the area and says, well, there's enough bays here to allow some flexibility in allowing the traders to pay 600 rand a month, or residents or whatever, a flat fee, and they can park in a certain area, maybe not on the high street, maybe one street behind, that the system needs to be flexible to do that. Now, the problem is it was never that flexible.
Never that flexible.
Yeah.
Well, also we had the views of many callers and who are also motorists in Johannesburg. Well, thank you very much, gentlemen, for joining us, and hopefully we'll have a follow-up as there are developments on this issue in Johannesburg and other areas. Well, thank you to you also for joining us right there at home. Asasifikele siphelweni senkqubo yethu namhlanje ke sibulela also wasfonela and participated and also sent us your messages on your Facebook page. Remember to catch our repeats every Monday at 12 p.m. right here on SABC1 Mzansi for sure. From me, Sipikwanza, and the rest of the team, it's goodbye, God bless, and keep well.
Yilungelo